One other thing that I wanted to say, actually, back when we looked at Riddle of Steel and noticed again at the end there, was just how the tempo itself is so kind of indulgently slow.
Hmm.
You know, you can really, I mean, it's really milking all those dissonances and the passing harmonies and stuff. It's just, it's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
and at bar 45 for me too, what he does is so cool harmonically because you're kind of like in this, and then are you going to resolve? You'd think you'd go there. No, he goes to open, but he's got the sixth here and then resolves it on the head cut. And I'm like, it's just using that little bit of dissonance to accentuate the beheading. It's just so brilliant. Yeah, somebody said excellent string writing. Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful string writing on this. You know, it's an amazing cue.
Those basses at the end, the way they come down is really it's very moving, you know, and it's just
Yeah.
simple. It's not even like doing, you know.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful cue. I mean, this is like the first reel of the film, and then you've gotten this is what you've been exposed to in the first reel of the movie. Is this
with a tiny, you know, prologue, you know,
yeah.
and then the Riddle of Steel, with there's a little bit of talking, and then it goes on for how long is this? I mean, there's no dialogue.
Almost 12 minutes of music because I did when I was watching the film, I hit the mark at this point. It's I think almost like 13 minutes. And I'm like,
And it really sets up the character of Thulsa Doom so beautifully in showing his mind control, you know, because they didn't do a lot of special effects. There was no like laser beams coming out of his eyes. They were able to do it with James Earl Jones's amazing face,
yeah.
and with those subtleties of moving his profile from side to side. I just, you know, kills
And the
me.
blue eyes, I just love the contacts. They're so
And
cool.
when she lowers the sword, you know, because her face doesn't change.
No.
Her sword just drops, and then his eyes go a little sympathetic for like a brief second.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful cue. And it's an amazing cue. So yeah, everybody, that's the first reel of the film.
Well, and the thing I'd mention too, Dan, we've just finished the first reel. There hasn't been an electronic instrument anywhere in the score.
No.
And you're never aware of the compression. You know, it sounds like an orchestra in an orchestral room.
And that's somebody did mention that about today would be, you know, there's no stems and somebody screwing up. And I'm going, yeah, I mean, this is what you're supposed to do with an orchestra, not stripe an orchestra. You're supposed to balance and mix your orchestra in the room.
And it has a lot of dynamic to it.
Oh,
It gets quieter, and also they drop the sound effects from the movie completely out for up until the very end after the beheading, and the sound of the fire comes back.
Yeah, yeah. There's only the smack of the sword hitting her, and that's the only thing that happens. It's an amazing cue.
And
I mean,
can I say something?
Yeah.
Also keeping in mind that back in those days, directors were not given a mocked up score that had to keep being rewritten and rewritten before it actually went to the scoring stage. And one of Basil's great gifts, and you mentioned it earlier, Dan, where Elizabeth was saying that when he wrote a pattern for the strings that was all 16th notes and kept going, he didn't change the pattern. If he had to change the harmony, he would, but he would keep the pattern the same so that it didn't become a continual struggle for the string players or for any of the musicians. You know, it allowed the musicians to actually play the music once they saw what was happening and, you know, got it under their fingers. But the fact that the relationship between a director and a composer was, I don't want to use the word intimate, but was just had to be so close and so trusting. And of course, sometimes scores didn't work out. But for the most part, you know, when Basil would write, you know, he wrote from his heart, he wrote from his mind, and it's just, it's all there. And the director trusted him. He knew, he gave him a guide, you know, based on Carmina Burana. And there you go. But I just,
yeah, it's amazing.
And not having the sound effects and all the special effects that we have today,
Yeah.
it allows you to really be there in that moment. You know, I just had to say that.
No, it's great. It's a great point, and I think again, everybody's heard me say this on I don't know how many of these things now, these webinars. It's you know the lack of composers coming in with today into the business without training, and the training comes from knowing the 300 years of classical, really looking at classical music. And your dad knew classical music, without a doubt. He knew it intimately, and he knew it well. And it's not something which you just go listen to. You have to play it. You have to look at it. You know, I read an interview recently with John Williams. He's talking about how he's got a huge collection of Haydn in his library, and that's what he's reading. What he pulls out to read now is Haydn. He's into Haydn symphonies again. He said it's weird at the end of his life to come back to the composers he looked at early in his life, Haydn and Mozart. And I'm going, yeah, you think about the score collections we have. I mean, I die laughing between the amount of music Elizabeth and I have between the two of us. It's